Mariah Carey's All I Want for Christmas Is You has been certified diamond 27 years after it was released. It's the most successful holiday song on Spotify with over 1 billion streams. It's become as much of a holiday staple as a Christmas tree, snow, and Hallmark movies are. But why? Why does Mariah Carey have such a hold on the holiday season? How does she do it, and why does that matter in today's music industry? More importantly, will someone ever be able to do this again? Well, let's dive in and find out. JM in your universe. Mariah Carey is an undeniable staple of the holiday season. With All I Want for Christmas Is You being covered annually, going #1 on the Billboard Hot 100 25 years after it was released initially in 1994, and selling over an estimated 16 million copies, becoming the first holiday single ever to reach diamond status in the USA, the pop R&B diva has become the star at the top of every Christmas tree. As we inch closer and closer to its 30th anniversary in 2024, the question remains, why is Mariah Carey such a holiday icon now? Furthermore, how has her success in becoming so impacted the modern music industry? I'm Jonathan Miller, I'm a pop singer-songwriter, and if you haven't already, consider hitting the sub button and turn on all notifications so that you don't miss another video like this one. And don't forget to hit that like button too, because it helps me out a ton. Now, in order to discuss Mariah Carey's reign over Christmas, we need to start by understanding the holiday music market, because while it might seem like a seasonal subsection of the Billboard charts, it's actually its own market now in a lot of ways, and Mariah sort of had a role in that. In the early 90s, Mariah Carey was riding the mega success of her first few albums, especially Music Box, which spawned many of her now signature hits like Hero. At the time, however, Christmas music and albums weren't generally released at the height of a person's career. It typically happened for brand new artists trying to establish themselves and getting music out there, or more often, it happened with artists who had already passed their perceived peak. Christmas albums also don't generally receive the same amount of promo that a full-length studio album would, because a holiday album's life cycle is generally only 2 months long. At least in the 80s and 90s they were. They also certainly didn't contain a lot of new Christmas songs, as at the time it was largely believed that many people just wanted to hear the classics. A belief that actually still exists today, which is why every year the charts get refilled with original renditions of Rockin' Around the Christmas Tree, Last Christmas, The Little Drummer Boy, Joy to the World, Jingle Bells, It's Beginning to Look a Lot Like Christmas, and yes, All I Want for Christmas Is You. Nowadays, it's a little bit easier to become a holiday classic with the advent of streaming, TikTok trends, and meme culture. None of those things existed though back in the 90s. Therefore, introducing a brand new Christmas song into the fold of radio came with a lot more risks than it would now. As I said before, back then people tended to prefer the classics. And if this random new holiday song appeared on the radio, people actually had a higher chance of changing the radio station. Unlike today, where the holiday market has become so oversaturated with renditions of the classics, their original recordings, and new compositions, the holiday market now is much thicker than it ever was. This is why sometimes people like Kelly Clarkson release their albums in September, even though that's also a risky move, due to many people at that time really not being in the holiday mood, which means the album is less likely to sell well its first week of release. But by actually bumping up the release of her album, there was actually more space to call attention to it as the competition was low, also expanding her album's life cycle by an additional 2 months. In the 90s, there really wasn't a go-to scientifically proven method to marketing a brand new holiday song, except for a few rare cases like Wham's Last Christmas. Well, then Mariah Carey entered the chat. If you're not familiar with how the iTunes or the Billboard charts work, I'll put links to all of my videos on them, which go into much further detail, but here's a brief rundown. Think of the iTunes charts as more like a time-based ranking system that updates several times throughout the day and is constantly swayed by how many sales of a song are happening and at what time they're occurring. Are they happening all at once, or are they happening kind of spread out over time? This is why when Christmas time rolls around, people rebuy their favorite holiday songs or holiday albums, which all kind of happens relatively at the same time, leading to those songs reappearing and rising up through the iTunes charts. Then, once the new year rolls around, Christmas time is over, the songs start to fall off the chart. It's really rather simple. The Billboard charts, however, are a bit more complicated and rely on a lot of different factors to determine their weekly rankings, such as sales and stream numbers, social interaction, aka viral action and trending hashtags, pre-order numbers if available, and so much more. It's a US-based system, meaning that for most of its charts, except the Global 200 excluding the US, as the name implies, only data occurring within the US count towards chart eligibility. This is also why if your song sells well on iTunes, which reports its sales data to Nielsen SoundScan, which is what Billboard uses to determine its chart rankings, and your song gets pretty high on the top 100 on iTunes, it's pretty safe to assume that your song will appear somewhere on the Billboard charts, which again is why so many holiday hits year after year enter both the iTunes charts and the Billboard charts. What's unusual about that though is when a 25-plus-year-old song goes #1 on Billboard, and it's especially rare for a holiday song. Back in the 90s, the rules for charting on Billboard were much stricter and straightforward, as things like iTunes and Spotify didn't exist. One such rule in particular was that a single, in order to be chart eligible, had to be released physically in some sort of official format, which surprisingly, All I Want for Christmas Is You wasn't. When the rule did expire, however, in 1998, 4 years later, the song went on to peak at number 83 in January of 2000. As the decades continued, Billboard rules continued to adapt and change, paving the way for All I Want for Christmas Is You to reach a new peak of number 9 in 2017, and eventually finally topping the charts at the end of 2019. It wasn't just Billboard that changed though. Fan interaction and influence became more and more integral to a song's chart performance than ever before due to widespread access of the internet. Mariah Carey has been a reigning pop R&B diva for over 30 years. Her fans, the Lamely, have been supportive of her signature whistle tones, and star quality as she's moved through her life. They've seen her through the highs, the lows, the controversies, the people she didn't know, and moments of brilliance as she has continuously evolved like a Pokemon through time. And that connection is what fueled them to come together and stream, buy, and trend All I Want for Christmas Is You, which allowed Mariah Carey to become the first artist ever to top the Billboard Hot 100 in 4 different decades. A massive feat that we will have to wait a long while to see if anyone can replicate or beat. So all of this is very impressive, but it still doesn't answer why she became such a holiday sensation. And the answer to that, however, is actually quite simple. She did something different at the time, but also still played to her strengths. Mariah Carey's signature is her impressive vocal range. When your average person thinks of Mariah Carey, they tend to think big voice and high notes, much like a lot of people do now when they think of Ariana Grande. Her first holiday album, Merry Christmas, appropriately titled given its play on Mariah Carey's initials, consisted of music and stylings that people really expected of her at the time, while still offering a few surprises. All I Want for Christmas Is You sits at 150 beats per minute and actually contains influences of 60s style harmonies, which instantly gives it a classic feel. Its upbeat dance pop sound of the early 90s makes it an excellent choice to be a single, as opposed to a lot of holiday music which can be very ballad heavy because its melody is catchy, easily memorable, and its lyrics contain the subject you, rather than a gender-based lyric format, making the song accessible to a wider audience who might relate to it subconsciously. It also contains elements of R&B and a high note of A5, which makes it instantly recognizable as a Mariah Carey song, even though the song was quite different from the ballads that Mariah Carey was more or less known for at the time. This made the song instantly stand out not only on holiday radio, but also on pop radio and adult contemporary radio, something that only continued to help her as millennium pop, electropop, and dance pop all took over the world by force throughout the 90s, 2000s, and 2010s. In other words, because of its stylistic choices, melodies, and eventual pop trends, All I Want for Christmas Is You stayed relevant year after year, helping Mariah Carey stay at the forefront of everybody's minds. If you happen to already be a subscriber, you know that I've talked a lot about the myth that is aging out of the music industry, and how by modern standards, it doesn't really exist anymore. Anyone nowadays can get a second or third or even fourth wind in music now, whether that's because of a social media trend, like on TikTok, or by some other means, no matter really what age you are. Mariah Carey is over 50 years old now, and while her true age might be a memeable secret, her repeated success throughout her life can't be disregarded as a fluke even with her 2020 #1 hit. Mariah Carey is no stranger to reinvention, with hits like We Belong Together happening when she was already 36 years old, or her song Obsessed becoming a hit when she was 40. She's a hitmaker for a reason. She actually writes almost all of her own material, and as I've said before, her vocal range is incredible. Even if people don't like her for whatever reason, her talent cannot be denied. Mariah Carey has spoken about what Christmas means to her. She's said numerous times that she didn't have a lot growing up, even citing one year when her mother wrapped up fruit just so that Mariah and her family could have Christmas presents. She's also said repeatedly that the holidays genuinely are her favorite time of year because she's now in a position where she can experience and give the things that she didn't have as a child. In her book, The Meaning of Mariah Carey, she spoke about the frequent fights between her brother and her father that would end violently, ultimately ruining the entire holiday season. She said as a kid she would often create an imaginary Christmas in her mind so that she could escape the trauma that she was experiencing. Christmas actually holds a personal place for her, which comes out in her songwriting, adding another subconscious layer of relatability in her music. Now, it would be remiss if we didn't acknowledge that just because she's had all this success with the holidays doesn't mean that there hasn't been critique over the years. A lot of people have said repeatedly that some years she gets overplayed. In fact, very recently, All I Want for Christmas Is You actually got banned at a bar in Texas because, quote, people go overboard with it at their jukebox. When Mariah Carey found out about this and tweeted a meme, the bar responded by saying it was never actually intentionally banned and that it would only just be skipped in November. All I Want for Christmas Is You has been covered numerous times by people like Michael Bublé, the cast of Glee, Justin Bieber, CeeLo Green, Idina Menzel, Fifth Harmony, Ingrid Michaelson, PJ Morton, Pentatonix, and many, many more, making the song inescapable at times. Mariah herself has performed it live on numerous occurrences. She re-recorded it in 2010. There's been multiple remixes of the song, and mashups and memes have been created surrounding it. It's also because of her unbreakable hold on Christmas that many people are actually starting to call Underneath the Tree by Kelly Clarkson its spiritual successor, as the song has steadily gained a lot of traction every year since 2015, with it being the only song on the Holiday 100 Top 25 to have such consistent growth. However, at the time of this recording, and as much as I love Kelly Clarkson, in terms of success, Underneath the Tree still can't hold a candle to All I Want for Christmas Is You. Somewhere along the lines, Mariah Carey transformed from holiday pop wonder to holiday icon. There's a reason Mariah Carey makes a memorable comeback every holiday season, and that is very simply, she brought her imaginary escape into reality. For a woman who was repeatedly traumatized every holiday season growing up, she inadvertently created a safe space for herself, her fans, and a familiar anchor for casual listeners to hold on to year after year. In the pandemic, when people couldn't really see their families, Mariah Carey brought a little bit of cheer with her Christmas special. When you need a laugh, she joins in with the holiday memes. If you want to be entertained, she delivers stunning performances. Mariah Carey and All I Want for Christmas Is You, by extension, have become a steady rock for people to hold on to, even if they aren't fans themselves. It's a song that someone somewhere every year can relate to, ultimately leading to new sales, streams, and an increase in discoverability. Many young fans of Mariah in the 90s are now adults with families of their own, who are in turn also growing up with her Christmas presents during their holiday seasons as kids and teenagers. Mariah's genuine love for the holiday season is infectious, which is what the holiday season is ultimately about: love and togetherness. It's like All I Want for Christmas Is You is the familiar friend that you see at the holiday season and catch up with before continuing on to your busy lives throughout the rest of the year. Yeah, sometimes you fight and maybe get into disagreements and have that awkward period where you don't really talk to each other, but they're always there for you regardless. So will anyone be able to replicate this holiday recipe in the future? Are Underneath the Tree and Kelly Clarkson truly the successors to Mariah at Christmas? Honestly, It's possible. Capturing the right emotion that stirs something within year after year that comes from a genuine place, as opposed to writing just another cheeky holiday composition, might just be the magic that creates a new holiday classic. It is certain though that Mariah's ability to move with the times without alienating her older fans creates an inviting holiday experience where everyone is welcome at the table. She's a cozy blanket that's there for you, even when you don't think you need it. She has shown the modern music industry that being a little different at the right time while not losing yourself is an impeccable asset in terms of success. She's also shown that not all holiday classics reside in traditional songbooks. Mariah Carey created the very thing she craved as a child, a warm, safe space during the holidays. Not just for her though, for everyone. She blew open the door for a new generation of holiday classics to be created, and that is why Mariah Carey's hold on the Christmas season matters. So that is my video on Mariah Carey's hold on the Christmas season. Question of the video, what is your favorite Mariah Carey album of all time and why? Let me know in the comments. If you want to check out any of my other deep dive videos on Taylor Swift, Adele, K-pop, I've left some links in the description below so you can check them out. And if you like me and like what I do, consider joining me on Patreon like Melanie here and all these fantastic people to get all sorts of fun rewards, including access to my YouTube calendar to see what's coming to the channel. But as always, if you enjoyed this video, please leave a like on it and subscribe if you're new. I put out new videos every single Wednesday. Once again, I'm Jonathan Miller, and I will see you next time. See you later.
I am a machine, not a robot, not an operation electronically. My messages are magnetic.